I changed the original title of this sermon because it had the word resiliency in it. I had heard that people were really sick of hearing that word, and I was afraid nobody would come. I think I know why. We are all so tired of having to be resilient. We just want things to go back to the way they were. A longing to go back to our comfortable routines where predictability was king. But the universe had other plans, and we've had to learn new social and psychological skills. Resiliency is one of them. That ability to spring back into shape when stretched. Springing back into shape conjures up childhood images of Play-Doh and silly putty and balloons. Remember those long tube-shaped balloons that you could make into dogs and other animals, and you could blow them up part way and tie off, leaving about 3 inches of finger-sized rubber at the end. Remember how you could slide the bulging part of one end back and forth to the other? Remember how satisfying that was? Although we didn't know the word for resilience as kids, we somehow learned that concept through play. If pressure is applied in one area, migrate to another. The balloon will still be a balloon. You will still be you. It's just that you will be you in a different way. So how do we achieve this resiliency so needed in today's world? I will propose these 4 ways: letting go, embracing change, radical acceptance, and present moment awareness. I like to give people choices because we are all different, and what works for one person might not work for another. But going down just one of these paths will set your feet on the road towards resiliency. First of all, let's start with letting go. You could make a whole spiritual practice just out of letting go. Letting go of thoughts and ideas that bring you down, the ones that serve no purpose other than to prolong your suffering. So let's try something. Right now, make a tight fist and put into that tight fist all of your treasured beliefs about how life should be. I should be able to see my grandchildren more. I shouldn't have to wear a mask. That person should be kinder, neater, more on top of things, on time for meetings, whatever it is for you. Enclose it in your tight fist. Really clench it tight. Those treasured beliefs of how things should be, those complaints. And feel the tension in your arm, perhaps in your neck and your jaw. This tension is a distortion of your natural state. Feel the pain of it, and then open your hand and let it go. For myself, my body automatically takes a deep breath. Did yours? There's more room in my body now for life-sustaining breath, more ease, more clarity of mind, more room for other thoughts to come in. Once we truly feel the burden of holding on tightly, the suffering in it, we realize that we can unburden ourselves by letting go of those treasured beliefs about how life should be, our bodies and minds springing back into a healthy state, resiliency. A second way to achieve resiliency is to embrace change. I don't know about you, but I am not fond of change. I'm not one of those people who rearranges furniture, varies what they have for breakfast, or changes the pictures on their walls. I envy those who do. How flexible they seem. but I like things to be predictable. I would be happiest to go along in a steady state where I know how the world was going to operate in the future. To know that the first frost will happen in the third week of September, the roads will still be good for traveling in November, and we can ski in December. We actually used to be able to predict those things. Now everything is up for grabs. Both the natural and man-made worlds are unpredictable. You may not be able to get that part for your car. You may have to learn yet another computer skill in order to hold a meeting. You may need a fourth booster to be fully vaccinated. I realized that it was all an illusion that life was ever predictable, but it was a comfortable illusion. It was my illusion. And now it's a comfort I no longer have. It causes a certain amount of stress. Can we truly embrace change? We can if we acknowledge that change is the natural order of things. It's the way the universe works. It helps to look to nature because nature is all about change. Birth and death, growth and decay, everything has its season and nothing stays the same. Turn, 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 as the song goes. It is infinitely fair, cause and effect. The bean seed doesn't protest as it breaks through the soil. If it doesn't get enough water, it sends its roots deeper. If it dies, it just simply keels over and becomes part of the earth. We can learn a lot about embracing change if we can accept that it's part of the natural world. The universe is all about change. We might as well embrace it. That mindset will go a long way towards resiliency. Radical acceptance is yet another form of resiliency. I like to think of it as a safety net or a life jacket for when you are drowning, or a ladder to get you out of a deep well of despair. I first heard this phrase from author and Buddhist teacher Tara Brach. In fact, she wrote a book with that phrase as its title. I like the sound of radical acceptance, the active and the passive put together. It makes you pay attention. Radical acceptance has shown up for me personally as I face the inevitable declines of aging. Nothing in my body works quite as well as it once did. I didn't notice this much until my 70s, but now it is a constant. Old age certainly teaches you a lot about impermanence. All of a sudden, impermanence is real. It's an awakening to reality and a great opportunity to practice radical acceptance. It's important in old age, as well as other stages of life, to embrace enoughness. I can see and hear well enough. I have enough relationships in my life, even though I might like more. People are doing enough for me, and I am doing enough for them. It's about the radical acceptance of reality. Even if I were flat on my back in a hospital bed, I would have enough. The air would pass in and out of my lungs until it didn't. If I practiced radical acceptance, it would be enough. I would be peaceful. Radical acceptance is not the same as passivity. If you are in physical pain, see a specialist to find out if something can be done. If you are in emotional pain, reach out to another person or spiritual source for consolation. There may be times when nothing works. A loved one dies, your house burns down, your spouse asks for a divorce. If you can practice radical acceptance at these times, you may be in emotional pain, but you will not suffer. Suffering comes when you tell yourself, this should not be happening to me. Radical acceptance is telling yourself, this thing is happening to me, and I have the strength to deal with it. I accept that this is my reality for now, and I can make peace with it. Radical acceptance is a resiliency tool that allows us to spring back from what could be a downward spiral into an abyss. Think of radical acceptance as a ladder that your own mind can send down to get yourself out of those dark places. The last method of resiliency that I'm going to talk about today is mindfulness, or living in the present moment. No matter how bad your life may seem, nothing is overwhelming in the present moment. You can always deal with what's right in front of you as long as you don't project into the future or fall back into regrets about the past. Just take the next step if there's one to be taken, and if there's no action you can take, then just start breathing deeply. You cannot go wrong with deep breathing. You simply cannot go wrong. It's one of the best resiliency tools. Mindfulness is now taught in some middle and high schools. Classes in mindfulness are given in order to provide relief from anxiety and depression and to teach the skill of resiliency. As part of a final exam in one of these classes, students came up to the front of the class, chose an apple from a bowl, and returned to their seats. They then had to be present with their apple, noticing the variation in color, the shape, the size, the texture, the smell, any little imperfections. They spent 10 minutes just being with their apple. The teacher then collected the apples and put them into another bowl. Then he had each student come up one by one and find their apple and take it back to their seat. What was remarkable was the joy that the students felt when they reconnected with their apple. They had developed a relationship with an object just by observing and giving it attention. They were learning to love life through mindful presence. This is why the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu were always laughing. They knew the joy of mindful presence. You can try this at home with any object. It might help to start with a favorite object, such as a favorite mug, picture, pen, article of clothing, etc. Really give it attention. Notice everything about it with appreciation. Honor what it does for you, how it was made, and just be with it in a loving way. Notice how this lifts your mood. If you want to go further, try this with any object in your vicinity. Try appreciating an object that you just feel neutral towards. You might even like to make a ritual out of it, perhaps doing this first thing in the morning or before you get out of bed, and make it the last thing you do before you go to sleep. Maybe putting a different object on your nightstand every day for a week. Notice any change in your attitude towards life because of this practice. The ultimate goal is to feel appreciation for all of life, but start small and see if this practice wants to grow in you. Ultimately, all four strategies lead to the same result, which is resiliency, elasticity, and inner peace. Letting go, embracing change, radical acceptance, and mindfulness are all tools that can get you there. You don't need to practice all four. It's much better to choose one and practice it often. Choose the one that makes sense to you or the one you think you can do most easily. A fun thing that some people do is to make cue cards that they place in drawers or cupboards or computer cases so that they are surprised when embrace change shows up in their sock drawer or radical acceptance shows up when they open their laptop. Make it fun. Relax into it and don't try to do it perfectly. Life should not be a battle. Life should be a dance. There will be days when nothing works, and there will be days of real aha moments. As the hymn says, through the good times and the bad times too, let it be a dance. Try something, relax into it, and notice any benefits. Any movement towards resiliency will not only benefit you, but filter out to make the world a better